Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Economic Development Planning Committee. It is 6:05. The members of this committee are Martin P. Kelly, Brian D. Sweet, Roy S. Diamond, and Dan Woods. Is there any discussion at this point from any committee members, legislators, or otherwise? No? If not, we'll continue to B, tourism grants. And if our county executive, Mr. Eisenfort, could you bring us up to date on that?
Yeah, I got a chance to talk to most of you individually, but you'll see in the spreadsheet a list of all the requests for the tourism grants, and also a recommended amount. The total occupancy tax reserve is $68,148. Sean recommended about $30,000 for grants. When putting it together, I worked around that number. There was also feedback from various legislators that have reached out on this issue and put it together. We'd like to get it passed this month, so if you guys want to take a look, all the backup is here with Cheryl. If you want to look at any of the specific information, give me a call this week, and we can make any changes we want, and if we're all set, we can move forward with it next week.
Terrific, thank you for that update. Anybody that has any discussion on that? Oh, Legislator Pat.
Role reversal?
You are to the left.
Matt, Mohawk Country's come here and presented before the fast and whatnot. I'm just curious, what did we give them last year?
It was $15,000.
So we kept them at level?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for your participation. Is there anybody else that wishes to be heard? If not, we can move on to the resolutions. We have 5 resolutions tonight. The first resolution is adopting an introductory local law, Law 1 of 2019, a law rescinding local laws 2 and 6 of 2017. Is there any discussion? Or do we have a sponsor?
I'll sponsor.
Legislator Pep, second.
I'll second.
Legislator Wilson, is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Opposed? Resolution is moved to the full legislature. Second resolution is resolution adopting introductory law, Local B, Local Law 2 of 2019, a local law to establish a sustainable loan program in Montgomery County, a sustainable energy loan program in Montgomery County, economic development planning. Your sponsor?
Sponsor.
Legislator Diamond.
Thank you.
Second, Legislator Kelly. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Move that on to the full legislative board. The third resolution is a resolution appointing a member of the Montgomery County Agricultural and Farmland Protection Board. We have a sponsor. Legislator Sweet. Second, Legislator Pep. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Pass that on to the full legislative body. The fourth resolution authorizing the county executive to sign an agreement for engineering services, shared service facility, economic development planning. Sponsor?
I'll sponsor.
Legislator Wilson, second, Legislator Pep. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Move it on to the full legislative body. The fifth and last resolution is a resolution amending the 2019 operating budget, economic development plan. Sponsor?
Sponsor.
Legislator Diamond. Legislator Wilson. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Look to your left.
Come on down. Thank you.
Just want to ask the executive, Matt, when was the senior GIS position vacated? It was during last year, right?
Correct.
And it was the last quarter of last year, when did she leave? This person,
I don't-
the position.
I'm almost comfortable saying second half of the year. I'd hate to say a month and be wrong.
No, it's all right,
But the issue, if you don't mind, was we posted for that a number of times and didn't get, frankly, any candidates that were qualified. And we frankly lost hope that we were gonna be able to fill that position, and that's why that money was used in the beginning of the year. We did not anticipate it, and then we had a resume come in, much later after the fact, and then that's when we went forward with that.
so economic development kind of approached this like they didn't think it was gonna get filled all year long.
Well, we were trying to fill it, but we did not think it was going to, and that was when, I believe that was a budget adjustment in the beginning of the year that you did, that Sean pulled the money from that line at that point to avoid using fund balance or contingent at that point. Which is why it was left unfunded.
It
So
was the end of October.
Thereby postponing that till this year.
Correct.
Okay.
Right, it was the end of October.
End of October, okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do we know what just curiosity, what the money was used for? I mean, if there was $10,000 or $15,000 left in it, was it just in the department itself? Or?
Yeah. And I forget what it was in that resolution.
I believe it's a resolution from January, without looking back. I'd have to go back and see what the money was taken from.
We can pull that for you.
Yeah, just so that the full, like we have that. I'm just kind of curious as to what it was.
I think that resolution that Sean did was for any adjustments that were made for the year after the budget was passed. That he usually does in the beginning of the year, and that's when he pulled from that to get that done.
Thank you for your explanation. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Resolution moved to the full legislative body. Is there any other discussion that we need to have under other? If there's nothing else, we have a motion to adjourn. Legislator Diamond, seconded by Legislator Kelly. Thank you.
Call the Health and Human Services Committee to order. Someone said, hold on. No? Okay.
You can mutter it under my breath.
All right, the first resolution is resolution amending 165 of 2018 Berkshire Farms Center Home Run Program Agreement. I'll look for a sponsor. Legislator Patel, Legislator Sweet, discussion. Sorry, Pep, Legislator Pep, let the record show Legislator Pep.
How could you make that mistake?
I got confused when I left. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, carried. Next is resolution authorizing county executive to sign state-approved child care facility agreement. Is there a sponsor? Legislator Pep, Legislator Sweet, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, carried. Is there anything under other?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Why did you call him Patel?
Left, I get confused. The sun was glaring.
I'll make a motion.
You make a motion to adjourn? Okay. We're adjourned.
Who seconded?
I did.
Can I write the time now, Cheryl?
You're good. 6:14.
Physical Service Committee, call to order.
Is it 6:15, Shirley?
It is.
It's, yes.
It's not.
It just switched to 6:15.
Any discussion?
You're good.
No discussion, we'll move to the first resolution. Resolution authorizing the county exec to execute an intermunicipal agreement between the Village of Canajoharie wastewater treatment plant and the Montgomery County Sanitary District Number 1 for sludge treatment. Do I have a sponsor?
Sponsor.
Discussion. Legislator Sweet. Legislator Keller. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor, move it to full legislature?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Next resolution, resolution amending the 2019 operating budget consolidated highway improvement program funds, Public Works. Sponsor. Legislator Diamond, Legislator Pep. Any other discussion?
Yes.
All those in,
I
Legislator
just want
Pep.
to commend the Commissioner of DPW for the detail that he included in his financial impact statement for the resolution, helping us understand it more clearly. And just wanted to commend you for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks, Cheryl.
All those in favor?
My idea, she typed.
For the record.
Shared services.
Let the record show.
Let
Thanks,
the record show I forced him into that.
All those in favor of moving it to full legislature?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Okay, resolution amending the 2019 operating budget, Montgomery County Transfer Stations, Equipment, Post-Closure, Public Works. No sponsor for that? Sponsor. Legislator Diamond, Legislator Pett. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor of moving it to full legislator?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right, so moved. Next resolution, resolution establishing the position of Public Works Stores Helper 2 and eliminating the position of Senior Public Works Storekeeper, Department of Public Works. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Sweet, Legislator Pett. Any discussion on that? All those in favor of moving it to full board?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Anything other? Any other? Eric, you don't have anything else?
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Motion to adjourn? Legislator Sweet, Legislator Kelly. So moved.
There you go.
Wait for the clock to get a signal.
What's the password on this?
You are.
No, you're next, but you have a couple minutes. At the end of your, I forgot to remind you, under other, we have the video from the sheriff's office that, we want to show everything. The recruitment video. I know I didn't test it, so. We're gonna wing it, Jeff. Video. No, it'll go. I have faith.
All clear?
Not yet, 1 minute.
Boy, she's tough.
The one to the right of you is tougher.
Right, usually is.
You talking about Duke?
Talking to me.
Sorry, everybody. The clerk,
Okay, now you're good.
the clerk has just released this. I'd like to call to order the Public Safety Committee meeting at 6, that says 6:21 here, late, but that's
6:20.
okay. I'll open the floor up for discussion, please. No discussion, then let's proceed with the resolutions. The first resolution for tonight establishes an additional part-time assistant public defender position, New York State. Indigent Legal Services, CAFA Grant Public Defender. Is there a sponsor for that? Brian, second. Annie? Now do we have discussion on this resolution? No discussion on the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? I have one question on that. Is that grant funded? Do we have that information here?
It is, and it's, the grant's expected for 3 years, and should the grant run out, the positions will be vacated.
Very good. Thank you very much for resolution number 2 for tonight. Let's see, resolution amending the 2019 operating budget, mandated salary increases, district attorney. I think we've done this a few other times before. Is there a sponsor for that? Brian? Dan? Is there discussion for this? Brian?
I think this was something that we knew was coming because it was a 3-year, and I'm assuming that it got missed in the budget last year. Is there a way that we can, I mean, $2,800 isn't a lot of money, I mean, I guess in some cases, but is there a way that we can flag these things so that we can make sure that they're in the budget?
Yeah,
In the
I think
future?
we certainly won't miss this one next year, and I don't know if this had anything to do with the transition we had or why it got missed, but we'll certainly keep an eye out for it.
It's just, you know, like I said, $2,800 isn't a lot of money, but they all add up after a while, and
Yeah.
we.
Roy?
I'd like to see her take it out of her current balance, her current budget, like we did last time.
Anyone else support? Do we have to amend that to do that? Or?
The last time we just sent it back, and then she found the budget line to take the funds out, but that's, I'm just throwing it out for discussion, it's whatever the Ledge wants to do.
Any other discussion on this?
I believe last year, Mr. Chair, that we talked about this as being something that the DA would be equipped to know in advance of the budget. Based on,
It's mandated, state mandate.
right.
There was a 3-year increase.
And therefore, this shouldn't have happened.
No, that's what I said,
Yeah.
it got missed.
But I mean, we've been down that road, you know what I mean? And so,
So it's $2,800 isn't an awful lot to adjust in her own budget.
no,
So
no,
I tend to agree with legislator Ryan.
I do too.
The
Would
only
you like
other,
to see an amendment at the full board?
Matt,
sure.
Someone can reach out to her.
yeah, I would reach out to her. I'd also suggest having her come in because she did request a meeting with me last week in which she's going to be looking for some additional budgetary items far beyond this $2,000. So I think, you know, getting on the same page in that regard is probably appropriate at this time.
Out of fund balance?
No, just, well, she's, as Jeb did before, she's making the case of the workload being up and she needs more help, and she's got some things she'd like to do in her budget. There's a copier at $8,000 right there. So the only reason I bring that up is maybe a broader discussion beyond just the $2,000 here is probably warranted at this point. You know, given that she's an elected, you know, I think just facilitating that discussion would be my role in that.
Matt, with all the copiers we have sitting around here, we can't find one to give her?
I wish.
Huh?
I wish. I'm
Okay.
trying to.
All
What
right.
are we doing with
Okay, let's see, any other discussion on this resolution?
Do you wanna move this, or do you wanna
You wanna
pull up?
move to amend it? It's up to you guys, what you wanna do.
It'd be simple to amend, wouldn't
Well, I think we should give her the opportunity to find the budget code, and we can either accept it or not at the full board.
So shall we
I mean, we
ask?
can move it without a recommendation.
Okay, we'll move it without a recommendation, and then she should present it to us by the regular monthly meeting, which is next Tuesday, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Matt, you're gonna reach out to
We'll
him?
reach out to her tomorrow morning.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, let's move on to resolution number 3 for the night. And, this is a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract with HFM BOCES for school resource officer position and create a new deputy sheriff position. That's the sheriff's department. Is there a sponsor for this?
Well sponsored.
Okay, Mike? Martin? And if that's open for discussion, or Jeff, do you have something you want to say on this, or?
Only, I just want to make sure you realize that the amount of revenue and the financial justification, BOCES is actually paying benefits also, so we're going to be bringing in $67,125 and only budgeting the salary. So if you approve this position, it will cost the county $7,000 to have a deputy year-round, which is summertime, vacations, when the school.
So there are other uses for the deputy
Oh,
without?
certainly, absolutely. And I got the benefit numbers from personnel office, so.
So in other words, for $7,000 more a year, we would wind up being to use some of the hours of this person?
Right, and that 7,000 would be in the 2020 budget,
Which you can plan for.
which I can plan for,
Right.
yes.
Perfect.
But this position starts September, the first day of school of this year is what they're hoping.
Are there any other questions on this?
So, but just so I understand, how do they, and how do we employ them this year, but it's in next year's budget?
Because the revenue that they're gonna be paying for this year will more than cover the salary of the deputy through the end of
So
December.
they're paying the revenue and.
Yes.
So we don't need to make any
Correct.
budget line adjustments or anything like that? Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Should we bring it to a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any noes? Okay, let's move on. Okay, and am I allowed to, I'm never been chairman, am I allowed to sponsor a resolution on this committee? I am allowed to. And I would like to, the resolution for approving the retirement and transfer of K-9 Kilo and the Sheriff's Department. I would like to sponsor that.
I'll second.
Legislator 9, he would second that. Is there any open discussion on this? Legislator 9?
You know, it's always nice to see appreciation. I don't know how you extend your appreciation to an animal, something like this, but certainly he's done a good job and deserves it. I'm sure we don't have a retirement plan for him.
Just a few bones he
Maybe,
needs.
maybe we
So
do.
I'm-
When the dog retires, the officer retires, it becomes property of the handler. Do we make any adjustments for his medical care or?
No, it becomes a financial responsibility of the handler. And they know that going into the position, so it's part of the process. And in Eric's case, he's got a replacement dog being trained right now. So he'll have 2 at home for a while.
Very good, thank you.
Sheriff, can I ask you how old he is?
10,
He's 10
Yeah.
years old and a German Shepherd, so he's
yes.
got a few good years left in him, huh? To enjoy family
We
life.
hope so. Sometimes when they retire, it takes a big toll on them when the handler goes to work every day.
Really, when he leaves, that's true.
Yeah.
Uh,
But we'll see.
Okay, thank you very much. Shall we vote on this now? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Next resolution amending the 2019 operating budget. Rescue equipment purchase, the sheriff. Any sponsors for this?
Sponsor. Sponsor.
Okay, Lloyd, and a second. Brian, any discussion on this? Jeff, again, it's in your court. Can you-
We're just very grateful to the Craig family who sought us out and offered this $10,000 donation. And the only prerequisite that had to be used for some sort of water safety, water rescue, and recovery equipment. So we thought long and hard about what we could do, and St. John'sville Volunteer Fire Department used to have some CDs. They actually still have them, but they're almost on the edge of living their lives. And they were very valuable whenever we had something on the Beardsley Lake or the Mohawk River or one of our larger ponds that we had to do some operations on, unfortunately. So we approached Alpine House, got a quote, through the jail revenue, able to use some revenue, thank you to the ledge. And I just met with Parks and Recs last week, and it appears that I'm gonna be able to get a 50% grant match back for the equipment, which means I'll get half of the full $23,000 back. So it really is gonna cost the county a couple $1,000 for all of it.
That's excellent. Legislator 9.
I've lived here my whole life and I don't know where Beard.
It's right at the county line west, St. John'sville. And we've had a few incidents there throughout the years. It's a heavy fishing location, carving location.
There's life gas on
But I just got the special license so I can go that far.
I grew up at the Beardsley Lake.
Not sure you did.
Okay, shall we vote
Never
on
had,
this? All-
never had to have a water rescue though.
Thank you, Sheriff. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the next resolution amending the 2019 operating budget, Equipment Sheriff's Department. And I have a sponsor for that,
Sponsor.
and Mike will second that. Do we have any discussion on this? Go ahead, Mike.
Sheriff, I just want to tell you that, I support this, and, when you sent us an email, I spoke out and said I supported it at that time as well. And I think you're doing a wonderful job, reinstituting the department and getting things back in line. Obviously, you stepped into a situation where things needed to be upgraded, and it's really refreshing to see that it's not coming out of fund balance, but out of a line item that you're growing. But I mean, all that said, at some point in time, and I know you have some catching up to do here in your department, I think it's gonna be good for us to see that money grow so we can use it other places in the budget, So I mean, do you have a target on where you think it's gonna come in, that line?
As I stand here today, you saw the results of the April bill was $52,200, I think, without looking at the exact total. And, we've been fairly consistent, but that could go to $75,000 next month, or it could go to $4,000. So there's no way for me to physically control that number. I think it'll be fairly consistent, and my goal, my projections, I used a number of $35,000
A month.
a month for the remainder of the year. I mean, if I could reach that goal, I would more than cover this equipment and bring in revenue.
Good.
And I appreciate your take on the revenue, but I just want all the ledge to realize and remember that the work that the correction officers do each and every day because of this revenue is a daunting task at times. We're short-staffed. I'll give you a perfect example. Friday night at 3 o'clock, we had 2 constant watches come in, 2 males. That's 1 correction officer watching each individual 24/7 all weekend. Then we had a female go to the hospital and be put on a constant watch. We had a correction officer that was sick. We're already down correction staff. So, saying we want to create revenue so that we can help other departments or other areas of the county is great, but it's a real big morale buster for the correction correctional staff, because sometimes they feel that the brunt of the work is happening there and the money is going elsewhere. That's why this resolution is very, very big, because I can show them the fruits of their labor. And
Understood. No, and I appreciate, you know, your candor on that. Thank you.
it's just something
Yep.
in the history of the department that has been an issue in the past, you know, all the work takes place there, but the money never seemed to come back there, and I know that's not the case with this ledge, and I want you to know that we appreciate that.
Well, it's certainly refreshing to see that it's growing up to a level that it once was, you know, just a few years back, and it's because of your efforts. We appreciate that.
And we really need to have some discussions starting in January. There's a new law with no cash bail. Jail could be changing. You know, we may have less, or we may have many, many more, because even though you don't go to jail on an arraignment because of this new cash bail law, the minute you fail to show for court, the judge issues a warrant, now you're a fail to appear, and they're all gonna come to jail. So, you know, it could go one of two ways.
Thank you.
Legislator Nine?
A couple weeks ago, you had a meeting up at the Hagman Volunteer Fire Department. First, thank you for doing that, coming out and speaking to the people. I think it was really informative. We had a discussion about some equipment that you could use. That's not in here.
Yes, it is.
It is, okay.
It's just listed as clothing uniforms because that's the line that it has to come out of.
Okay. Very glad.
Yeah, it's broken down into two areas for the jail and the patrol budget.
Thank you.
So you'll see two clothing and uniforms in
And Sheriff, I mean, as I stated in the email, the protection of our citizens is paramount, and the protection of the people who protect our citizens is paramount, and that's why this is important for us to support.
It's good to hear and good to see, and I'm actually glad the media's not here. We can talk about the bulletproof vests. I got some expirations today, and some of them expired in 1999, some expired in 2005. You know, and the normal is a 5-year run, and when you get involved in these bulletproof vest grants, which is a 50% match, it's something we're getting into, they encourage you to replace your vests every 5 years. So, does it truly expire? Would it not stop around? I guess you never really know, but it's one of those manufactured things, and it's certainly not the chance that I think any of us want to take.
Jeff, I have a question with the governor's changes in the jail system. Will that affect you in any way? Will you be able to maybe get additional revenue from that? Or
No,
closing the 9 jails or whatever he's doing?
no, because they're talking about New York State prisons.
Okay, so that would not get any overflow or anything
No,
to
that
us?
wouldn't affect us at all. Matter of fact, if the court systems plea bargain their cases and sentence them to county time, it may cost us more money than sending them.
That's what I've been reading. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
Thank you all very much for the support.
Thank you for a great job.
And we now have a video from the department?
Yeah, so we've got a major problem, especially with corrections, and I think Nicole can agree. Last time we did these, 6 people took it, right?
Well, it's a little bit more than that, but the eligible candidates are mine.
So we've been doing things that we haven't done in a long time. We've won the job fairs, and we created a recruitment video. I'm gonna release it to the public tomorrow and share it with the college, the Criminal Justice Club, and the high schools. And I wanted you guys to see it before we release it to the public and get some feedback. That's if it works.
Come on, have faith. Just get them in the road.
Cheryl, is there a way to stream those to these laptops? So that, I mean, for the audience, it's okay, but we could just sit and watch them on our, you know what I'm saying? Sure. Or
Possibly,
Any of the
yes.
presidents, ask Corey, please.
That's a great idea.
We can email you the link.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking of this. Right, so.
The far right bottom corner. Cheryl.
Yeah, I got it.
Might have to snails to get
Is it loud enough?
Are you frustrated with your current employment situation? Would you like a career that has good wages, great benefits, a climate-controlled, clean work environment, retirement, and a place that treats you like family? Jobs like that are hard to come by these days. Montgomery County Sheriff's Office is constantly recruiting 911 dispatchers, correction officers, nurses, cooks, and deputy sheriffs. My name is Jeff Smith, Montgomery County Sheriff. Please visit the county website at www.co.montgomery.ny.us for current job opportunities. Or better yet, come see us here at the Sheriff's Office in person. For now, here are some of our team members sharing their experiences working here at the Sheriff's Office.
Before I joined the Sheriff's Office, I worked for an excavation company for about 3 years. I think the biggest advantage was getting into something with retirement and establishing a career for myself.
I would encourage anybody, if they want to stay in this area to work, it's a great place to work, and we make good money. There's all kinds of overtime. Health insurance is great, and you start a retirement.
Biggest advantage going from construction to a career in law enforcement is everything. You have financial security, you have guaranteed retirement, you have medical benefits, and you're in a brotherhood that just is, the fraternity is everything. You always have people you can count on and lean on, and everybody's here to help you, and it's just a fantastic job, and I wouldn't do anything else.
You definitely learn how to multitask and how to handle challenging situations that come up. When the phone rings, you never know what's going to be on the other end. So you learn how to respond to different situations quickly and efficiently to get the help needed.
I love my job, and I tell everybody that. I think the misconception is that they think it's dangerous, and it's not dangerous. We all have each other's back. We all have the training. We carry the equipment we need, and there's somebody always there for us.
There's no comparison. I love what I do. I love coming to work. Every day is awesome. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what you're going to get into. It's the thrill, the adrenaline rush. It's just,
So one of the biggest benefits of this job is knowing that I make a difference, a positive difference in the community that I live in.
You're able to have that fulfillment and knowing that you're going out there, you're doing your best, and your community and where you live and work is a better place for you.
When you work here, you become more of a family, and you're there for each other, always, no matter what.
As you can see, there are many opportunities here at the Sheriff's Office to open doors for a very successful career. Join our family. We need hardworking, dedicated individuals who want to make a difference. As you can see, the camera had 70 pounds. That was Kilo's last hurrah, retirement video.
I think it's all the cookies you bring to work up there.
So it's just something we're gonna try with high school students, college students. I mean, I don't know if it's gonna help or not, but
I just emailed the link to you guys.
anybody have any issues with what's in it?
Oh, good job.
Good. All right, thank you.
You made me tear up.
Thank you very much.
Everything makes you tear up.
Just hang out at Beardsley Lake should make you tear up.
The memories.
Kid Rock wrote a song about it.
Is there anything else to discuss tonight? As far as public safety goes? I'd just like to say something to Dr. Swinger. I want to thank you for attending our meetings and dealing with you at the college and for the years. I know you got retirement coming up. Sometimes it's a great thing, sometimes it's a little bit anxiety, but thank you very much for your service for the college. And the kids really, or kids, I can't call them kids, students really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to adjourn? Brian, second? Roy? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Noes? Thank you very much, everybody. Next motion. Yeah, he's last over here. Sweet.
Thank
Good job, Joe.
You did very good.
I just don't want to trip. Forget about the laptop.
Okay, we'll call the Education Government Committee to order at 6:45. Members of the committee are Legislator Diamond, Legislator Wilson, Legislator Jesse, and Legislator Pep. First thing on the agenda discussion, does anyone have anything to discuss? If not, we'll move right on to the 13 resolutions. Thank you, Megan. First resolution is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute change order number 1 with Harold R. Clune for FMCC Theater and other buildings renovation project. I need a sponsor.
Sponsor.
Legislator Diamond, second. Legislator Pep. Discussion? You can step in at any time and just fill us in, or I think these are pretty self-explanatory, so.
Yeah, these are just moving some money around from project to project so that they match with the budget.
Okay. Any further discussion? Now, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I abstain. Good.
Yep.
Next resolution is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute change order number 1 with Harold R. Clune for FMCC campus labs and classrooms phase 2 project. I need a sponsor. Legislator Pep, second. Legislator Wilson, discussion? None? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I abstain. Next resolution is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute change order number 1 with AOW Associates, Inc. for FMCC Theater and other buildings renovation project. I'll sponsor. Need a second.
I'll second.
Legislator Wilson, discussion. None? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute change order number 1 with AOW Associates, Inc. for FMCC campus labs and classrooms phase 2 project. I need a sponsor. Legislator Diamond, second. Legislator Pep. Discussion. None, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute amendment number 1 to the agreement between the counties of Fulton and Montgomery and JMZ Architects and Planners, PC, for the FMCC Theater and other buildings renovation project. I'll sponsor. Need a second. Legislator Wilson. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute change orders for FMCC PE building, bathrooms, and locker rooms project. I need a sponsor. Legislator Diamond, second. Legislator Pep. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution authorizing the county executive to authorize a contract with Train US Inc. for updated system controls within FMCC's PC building as part of FMCC PE building, bathrooms, and locker room project. Need a sponsor?
I'll sponsor, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
Legislator Wilson, second. Any discussion?
Who is first, Nancy?
There is no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution approving a successor agreement between Fulton Montgomery Community College and CSEA Local 1000 for the period of September 1, 2019 through August 31st, 2023. I'll sponsor. I need a second.
Second.
Senator Diamond, discussion. Anything on this?
If you want to discuss it, I recommend we go into executive session.
Anyone have any discussion on this? Okay. All those in favor? Aye, opposed, abstained? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution confirming appointment of the Director of Real Property made by the County Executive. Need a sponsor?
I'll sponsor.
Mr. Pep, second.
I'll second.
Legislature Wilson. Any discussion?
Chair. I thought I read, I was just looking for it now, but I thought I read where this came before us, our committee or something. I didn't remember that. I don't know if maybe I was absent or, one of the things with some of the problems we've had in the past with assessments and things and then being forwarded to us, I wanted to make sure that, you know, we have, I don't know who this person is, but I would be interested to know more about it before.
I believe she's been in the office.
She's
here.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. I'm sorry.
This is the committee review.
That's
The
what I thought.
resolution says it undergoes committee review,
It's
and
referring to
this is
this.
the committee.
This is the committee.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, 'cause I didn't remember that.
Yeah, so that's tonight for review by the,
Where are we gonna interview or is that it? Or?
just for discussion and, review of the appointment.
It's
All right, let me
the
go get the executive.
Chair.
legislative agreement. So it's the county executive's appointment and you guys confirm it.
Right, but I thought, didn't it say something where
So in this
we're supposed to
resolution,
review it or?
it's, yeah, I mean, that's what she's saying is that tonight is your committee review. That's, it's coming before you tonight as committee review.
I thought the same thing when I first read it. I said, where did we ever hear about this? But then I kept looking at it, then I said to myself, I think they're referring to this as our review. But
Should I tell?
I'd just like to say that I've known the candidate my whole life and been a spectacular person coming from a spectacular, hardworking family, and I'm sure you're all going to be more than satisfied with the work ethic and the abilities.
Shane. Ding ding.
I thought we were doing some resolutions for a few minutes, I'm sorry.
You have a question?
Well, so, I know, are we gonna go have an interview or can we ask questions or?
I was there.
So, so I made the appointment, and you guys can confirm or not. If we'd like to have a discussion about it, I'd be happy to here, I'd be happy to do it. Privately, it's up to you. I could speak as to why I appointed, and if you wanna start there.
Well, my own, not necessarily, if you are appointing her, then I'm fine with it. And I don't mean to talk in a third person, Christine. My only point is that we've had an issue in the past. And I, for one, don't wanna go through that again. I mean, where we've given direction to the director and it wasn't followed, and we weren't, the legislature's, wishes weren't carried out. And furthermore, to go back to that previous problem, now, it's still an ongoing thing. I just got a call last week now where there was a deal made where if the taxpayer backed out, that they wouldn't be charged additional taxes, and now they're doing that. So it all comes back to problems, not only the previous one, but we've had problems going on that I'm, for one, not interested in going through again.
Sure.
I'm not opposed to making decisions about things.
Yeah.
I'm opposed to being put in a position where what we want done is not done.
Well, what I think, the best way I can answer that is, I understand how they relate, but I view this as a distinct thing. This is, yes, there's been some issues in the past, but with this appointment, I feel confident we're gonna move forward in a positive way, and that the appointee will carry out the office in a professional way, and in a way that will, follow the wishes of whether it's me on a day-to-day basis, or any policy decisions you guys make, or any applicable state or federal laws that we have to follow. So I have all the confidence in the world there with this appointee, and I think this person will move the office forward in a very positive way. Now, but for how it relates to other decisions that have been made in the past and how things were done, that's something that we can maybe have a talk with, about what you would like to see the process is for information sharing, so it doesn't get to the point where, it's kind of just presented in the meeting. I think that would be our best strategy moving forward, is having a better understanding before we get to the meeting, and then having, kind of have it be a very pressure-packed type of situation. So that'd be the best way I could describe it. I can't necessarily say, because of this appointment, it's going to, change your experiences with things that have happened in the past with that. But I do think that, when all things are considered, and not just that, but also, the issue with assessing in Montgomery County right now. Because a big challenge that we're gonna have is we have one assessor who does multiple towns and is going to be leaving, relatively, in the near future. And this issue in general is going to be something we have to pay a lot of attention to in the next couple of years, because we don't have the manpower. But I believe that the appointee is ready to go and is going to do the job that we need him to do. 100% confidence.
Thank you. That's all I have. I will support the resolution.
Any further discussion? Need to make an amendment on the last resolved, where it says which expires on September 30th, 2019. We need to change that to September 30th, 2025. Have a sponsor for the amendment?
I'll sponsor.
Mr. Patel, I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained?
I have a
Okay.
question.
Okay.
Are we just appointing her to fill the current term, where the current term would come up at that point and end on that time?
We have approval from the state to fill through September 30th, 2025.
We do.
And we have gone through that process, to have that approval prior to the appointment, based on the qualifications that the state has.
Okay, so on the amendment on the resolution as amended, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution establishing a real property information specialist part-time. Need a sponsor? Legislator Pat, second Legislator Wilson. Discussion. Want to fill us in on that?
Well, can we get an explanation on
Yeah,
that?
I was just asking.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you want to explain that?
Sure, which one are we at?
The,
GIS.
Okay, yes, so this is a temporary solution related to what we have in the office. I don't know how much I can say here in public, but with the duties of the office, we need a part-time position, and we have somebody to do the part-time position to help with the assessing. And I mean, I don't know where the level of where we go into executive session here is related to people and, So, yes, it would fulfill the need based on Chris's duties and what she does and where there is a need in the office temporarily. So, but I mean, I could go a little further on that, but I would feel more comfortable if it was not open.
So we have a GIS specialist, right? So I mean, this was something we had before, or this was duties done by someone else?
Correct.
Yes.
And so now it's just an increase in, these duties now are not being fulfilled, and this is what we're doing to fulfill them for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's a temporary solution at this point, yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution confirming the appointment of head coroner made by the county executive. I need a sponsor. Ben, second, Legislator Pep. Discussion? None? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution appointing county coroner. Need a sponsor? It said Beth, but it wasn't. I was speaking with the Chair Headwell earlier, and just for discussion purposes, I believe there are 2 people who are currently running for this position. And his thinking was, should we appoint someone in this position, making it look like we're in favor of one person over the other? I guess is it something that needs to be filled before the election? Because what are we doing right now? We're relying on the deputy coroner?
There's no way of speculating how many people are going to die or die unattended, I would assume. But I thought a while back we did appoint a temporary or deputy coroner, didn't we?
There's 2. This is different than the deputy coroner.
But I mean, to fulfill the duties of, let's face it, going to check and see if someone's still breathing or whatever way you want to use it, didn't we make, I thought that we did make some appointment or some temporary fix for that with one of the undertakers. Yes.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I thought it was Marty Hughes.
I thought it was another gentleman from the western part of the county.
So there's 2
Oh,
that are the deputies that are per diem, or because it's paid.
per visit.
Right,
But-
so we
but
hired per diem.
But what you have is 2 elected county coroner
I
positions.
realize that, but the question isn't, I mean, my question would be, do we have the workforce, if you will, to complete the job, and we have that in a per diem kind of basis to cover what we have, is that correct?
I think you're, if I may be heard.
Go ahead.
I think we're confusing the issues here. You have deputy coroners, which are a separate and apart position. Right now, the issue is there's a vacancy in the elected position of coroner, and County Law 400, Section 7 says, when there is a vacancy in the position of the office of coroner, it shall be filled by the Board of Supervisors. So it comes directly from county law to fill that position. If there's an issue on if we need the additional 2 coroners now that we have the deputy coroners, that's something that the legislature can take up 180 days prior to the next election for the next term, which this term I believe expires in 2021. So it would, if you choose to expire or eliminate one of the 2 coroner positions and just go to a coroner with deputies, you would have to eliminate it, but it would not go into effect until 2021.
Come November, we're going to elect another coroner to fill the unexpired term of the coroner that passed away.
That's what this resolution is.
And that person will take effect either January 1st or sometime in between. What's the downside risk of us not appointing anybody between now and then?
The county law mandates that if there's a vacancy.
I understand that. So what's the downside risk if we don't do it?
The county law states that you shall
You'll be held in
fill a
contempt.
vacancy.
So in other words, it has no real teeth, and it's not that important, but, I mean, I don't carry it away, but, I mean, because that wouldn't be my deciding factor on why I would appoint somebody, and I think that the point might very well be is let the citizens decide.
I have a question. So we know 2 people are running for the unexpired term.
I believe so.
Does the person that we just made head coroner have a recommendation of somebody that is not running to just fill the vacancy in the time before the next election?
Good idea. I don't know, but we could ask that, and we could move this.
But that would be a way of having that position filled, not showing that we support one over the other. It it would be a temporary.
We could appoint one of our per diem. Right, which could very well not be one of the two and not be involved in it, and then we would satisfy.
So we could move this in insert.
$4,000 decision because we're told.
I think that's a good,
Yeah, it is.
good resolution too.
Good answer.
Resolution. Thank you, Mr.
Is that the daily double?
Okay, so is the county executive gonna reach out, or is someone from here gonna reach out to?
Well, it's our appointment, so I would assume.
I would say
Want me to
that's,
reach
yeah,
out?
I would say that is the clerk's responsibility.
Okay.
Did I say that right?
All right,
And
so,
if she does not have a
Then
recommendation?
I think what legislator Diamond said, you know, maybe we can appoint one of our per diem deputies.
or maybe she will appoint, say, one of the per diems. Okay. So we'll go ahead and move this on to the full legislature with no name, and then and hopefully with a recommendation from the head coroner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution adopting introductory law, local law C, local law 3 of 2019, a local law allowing Montgomery County to contract for coroners, physician services. I need a sponsor. Legislator Diamond, second. Legislator Pelley. Discussion. Someone want to fill us in on this one?
Is that because the former coroner was?
This is a bit technical, and I will let Megan go with this one since we've been digging into all things coroner lately.
You see that?
Backing her into a coroner.
Put up one.
This was just some housekeeping, conforming what we're doing with the local law. Because neither of our coroners is currently a physician, we need to have a coroner's position, and this allows us to contract versus hiring and creating a new position.
So how does this, it says there's no financial impact, but how do we pay, where does the money come from?
Because we're just creating a law allowing us to do it.
Oh, okay, so we're not actually doing it, we're just,
Correct?
Correct.
but we have no money to do it,
This is how we're currently operating this way,
so we're creating a law
to make, so that we can, what we're doing can
Do
come
it.
to conformance.
so to do what we're doing. Okay. Any further discussion? I need to get out of this corner.
Yes.
Oh, a slippery slope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? So carried. I believe that's it. Anything under other? Now need a motion to adjourn? Diamond? Legislator Wilson. 7:08.
Sorry. No.
No?
There.
We'll take a break after the resolutions. I presume I'm okay to start.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to call the Budget and Finance Committee to order at 7:08. Thank you. Remind this is a committee of the whole. Any items for discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to our first resolution of the evening, which is a resolution authorizing the county executive to sign agreement under Toshiba contract for copier services. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Wilson, do I have a second? Legislator Sweet. Any discussion on this resolution? Looks like the county clerk is looking to save us a little money here through this new arrangement, and that's always a good thing. Any other dialogue? All right, hearing none, all in favor of moving this to the full board for approval?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Our next resolution is a bond resolution of the County of Montgomery, New York, dated May 28th, 2019, authorizing the purchase and installation of a voice-over IP phone system for the county, estimating the aggregate cost thereof to be $500,000, appropriating said amount therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $500,000 in serial bonds of the county to finance said cost. Do I have a sponsor? This is part of our capital plan, it's been budgeted for.
That's fine.
Legislator Sweet, do I have a second?
I'll say.
Legislator Wilson. Any further discussion on this resolution? Legislator Pertel.
$500,000 seems like an awful lot of money to be appropriating at this time. Is there cost savings associated? Is there, what are we doing that's going to justify the $500,000 in changing this?
The new phone system needed to be replaced 10 years ago and could go down at any point. So it's been something that's been on our capital plan that we've been, we knew we had to do at some point. At the last capital projects meeting, we decided to move forward with it. Might come in a little bit under that, potentially, but there's looking at some state contract pricing. But yeah, it's one of those things that it's like the jail doors broke up there. It's just one of those things that could go at any moment. It's well past due, and just something that needs to get done. And there will be some savings associated with it over the long term. I'm not first to get into some of that detail, but it's a voice over internet system and not the old analog, and we're at the point now where the wiring is decaying and really it's in bad shape.
So is this rewiring?
It's an entirely new system. It'll be all over the internet instead of.
But they won't be utilizing the existing
Yeah.
systems. Because sometimes, correct me if I'm wrong, sometimes voice over IP, the only IP is coming into the central connection, and then you're using your copper wires to connect to the internet handsets.
I don't know that for sure, but I doubt we're going to be using a lot of the existing wiring.
Because that in itself would be very extensive.
Hence the cost.
Yeah, it's a big job.
I'm just concerned about it in current financial position. I certainly understand the want for it. I'm just questioning whether it's the time to do it and to expend, to take a bond out to do that at this time. I honestly don't know whether I can be in favor of that.
We have pursued to try to find some grant funding for it, but
Thank you.
Legislator Isabel.
What advantages does this new system have?
over what we currently have,
Yeah.
I would say number one is the reliability. Right now, the current system, as the way I understand it, is one incident away from the entire system going down. But I don't pretend to be the technical expertise. We can have an explanation for you on some of the details of the system for you next week, or we can email it out to you in the meantime. But I certainly, given all the the current situation, I wouldn't be putting this up if I didn't think it was going to be absolutely necessary, and if I didn't think it would help us save some money, hopefully in the future.
Legislator Patel, follow up?
So, to be honest with you, I would feel much better if we didn't bring this into next week's full board, but we did have the opportunity to talk to, who's it, Dan, that would be doing this, to better understand it. I don't know whether another 30 days is going to, affect the sense of urgency, or whether we can predict whether something's going to happen in the next 30 days. That's,
Yeah, our phone system is beyond poor. I mean, if we don't do this month or next month, it'll be next year. It's just a matter of waiting to see whether or not the current system blows. And I'd rather be preventative and proactive and get it done ahead of time than wait for a catastrophe to happen and then have to deal with it that way. Thank you.
Legislator,
I just
yes.
Okay, well,
No, go ahead, Frank. You know, you're on a, you know, you've got to ask a question, so
I
follow.
just question the fact why, you know, there are people on this board that are very much involved in that stuff, and they weren't even consulted. I feel a little bit offended on that. I wasn't even consulted about a system you're spending $500,000 for, that's all.
Okay.
Okay?
Legislator Sweet.
Just a couple questions, and this is something that you're not gonna be able to answer, is, you know, the security of these systems. I just heard on the radio today, I think it was a municipality in the Midwest where they have a couple 100,000 computers that are locked out because of a malware that was on their service, and it's a ransomware basically, and if they don't pay the ransom, they're not gonna get their computers back.
Yeah.
Do we have, and this is really off topic of this, but do we have something in place that protects the county from something like that?
So interesting timing of this question. My answer would be twofold. First, yes, and I don't pretend to know the technical expertise, but a lot of times the reason data can't do something is because of security reasons and protecting the network, which is always the big goal, protecting the network, preventing people from getting into the network. So they could probably give you a dissertation on that. That seems to always be the issue why we can't do something. Secondly, we actually have been going back and forth with our insurance broker about adding a cybersecurity policy to our portfolio for next year, as you're starting to see this more and more. So I think, you know, those are the only two things you can do, is you try to keep your system secure, which, you know, it appears they're doing. We haven't had too many issues. And then secondly, you know, if something does happen, you have that insurance protection in place. And we've got a few quotes and some policies priced out. It's not too bad as far as the price. So I would probably suggest that we go for it next year. But yeah, those are the two.
Albany County just ran into that.
Yeah.
And Matt, this means overhauling the phone system here, the annex building,
Correct.
the sheriff's office. How many buildings we talking about?
And every single one that uses these phones, and really, and the way it came about was, you know, in looking at it, designing an RFP to put out to solicit vendors would have been a pretty significant task in and of itself. What we chose to do was just simply go off the state contract. That way, you know, we satisfy the procurement requirements, but also, you know, get a good price, and then don't, you know, get kind of bogged down in the RFP process as well, just the earlier.
Legislator Wilson.
What is the age of the system that they're at?
Oh, geez.
You live it out, right?
Well beyond since
15 and 20 years.
I just tell
Oh,
them,
God, all of 20.
just remember what your cell phone was like 15 years ago. I mean, these new systems with fiber optics today, they're so superior, clear.
This has been
It's a
something
very
I've been
common
about
thing
since
to
the
upgrade
first
it.
year.
15 years on a phone system is unheard of. You know, it's just unheard of.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we'll get you a more thorough look at the system and get that email to you, and I'll make sure that the IT guys are here next week to answer any questions you may have as well.
Any further discussion on the resolution? Hearing none. All in favor of moving it to the full legislature next Tuesday?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed to it.
Abstain? Thank you. Carries. And our final resolution is a resolution approving abstract of audited claims. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Sweet, Legislator Wilson with a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. All right, we're about to get into the budget and workshop phase of this committee meeting with a lot of things to go over. So I'm going to recommend a 5-minute recess for everybody before we begin. All right. Let's call this budget workshop back to order. All right, you can see from the agenda that I have a particular order to things, and it's, unlike me, it's for a reason. But I want to start off with the departmental reports. And if you look at the departmental reports, you can turn the pages. I mean, but the three areas where there's a potential impact, I have highlighted on my own report. The first is the county treasurer. And the county treasurer has indicated that transfer station operations and transportation of solid waste currently operating at a loss and could result in a loss of $250,000 to $300,000 from operations. Now, according to Sean, we are now charging $73 a ton for waste. And as of April 30th, we've processed about 15,000 tons of waste, and we're tracking $97,000 behind budget. My next logical question to him upon hearing that was, how much waste do we process on a recurring basis year over year? And he said 45,000 to 50,000 tons a year on average. According to Sean, our county executive is conducting a study to determine how much we can raise the price per ton and still be less expensive than other alternatives. And just for your edification, in order for us to make up this perceived potential $250,000 to $300,000 deficit, if we keep operating this way, it would need to be increased up to about $80 a ton, another $7 a ton, and that would regenerate about $245,000 in income and close that gap. So, Executive Ossenfort, where do we stand on our study? And is that a realistic number that we may, or perhaps Treasurer Bowerman, a realistic number that we could even begin to consider without deterring business?
Just on a side note from that, we were just notified today that Schoharie County is in the process of increasing their tipping fees. They're currently at $83.50 a ton. They're increasing their tipping fees to $88.
Okay, well, that's actually pretty good news. Who else are we in competition with for waste?
Well, I wouldn't say we're in competition, we're just trying to
Well,
take care of our own.
what other options are there out there for people to dispose their waste?
And that's what is in the study that's coming. We contracted it was about, I think, $10,000 or $12,000 to have a full market analysis done, to tell us where we sit in the market, what we can charge, and then that can be used as a basis for making decisions moving forward. But clearly getting the recent news of where Schoharie's headed, I think obviously we're going to want to be not just at the break-even point, but we want to be putting money aside for equipment failures, anything that might need to happen. So I would probably suggest that we go a bit higher than what our costs are. But historically, we've always tried to keep that cost down, because most of our waste is municipal waste that comes in there. But I think certainly not. We don't want to do that to our detriment, and that's this position we find ourselves in now. So hopefully, in the very near future, you'll have the justification and the background information you have to make that decision. But just anecdotally, clearly, we can get there sooner than later.
Okay.
Do you have any reason why we're lacking trash?
I don't know that we're lacking, we're not getting enough per ton.
The problem is,
Your costs exceed
the
revenue.
big cost driver now is transporting the trash to
Okay.
Seneca as opposed to.
So when we budgeted, well, under the cost. I'm assuming if we're not bringing, if we're not losing, if we don't have the trash coming, I guess we budgeted.
Well, I think we do though, Legislator Sweet, just because, if we're 15,000 tons in through April, that's a third of the year, right? And so that would seem to track, and I think you did say summer garbage peaks a little bit more. So, we're on pace for a 45,000 to 50,000 ton.
No, but my point is that if we're on pace for the amount of garbage, why are we also
Because your costs are now,
Because
so
of the
you're
transport.
recognizing that you have $5 to $6 per ton.
So cost increase since the budget.
More.
Is that
Correct, yeah,
right?
we had the new contract, we got into transport, which there was a,
Yeah,
when
good
everything
point.
got for Fulton County, there was a temporary emergency contract, then we passed, we codified that after. These numbers are a reflection of the increased cost, but, in foreseeing that, that's why we wanted to get this study.
So we were $10 under Schoharie County
To start.
to start,
Yeah.
before they even started the race thing, so
Yeah,
it's kind of a no-brainer.
yeah, exactly.
Yes, Legislator Patel.
We're $5 to $6 a ton short of where we should be just to cover our
Costs.
Costs. We're not, I don't know that historically we've established a reserve fund or anything like that for equipment. You mentioned the deferred maintenance that's on the buildings. The transfer station that I'm familiar with has a ton of deferred maintenance. And, I don't feel comfortable with just saying, well, our cost is $5 to $6 a ton more, and that's what we need to cover. We really need to look at this and establish a formula for what it's gonna cost, what our reserves are, what our anticipated needs are gonna be in the future, things like that. I mean, those scales were rebuilt or replaced probably 4 or 5 years ago. They're always, especially in the winter time, they're a high cost item because people not stopping properly on them. The building, it's almost a shame to go to a transfer station and see the condition it's in. So we really need to work on what this is and where we need to be, and there's no time to be.
No, it's not. You're right. And, but Matt, will the survey begin to make those types of suggestions?
Yeah, well, it'll give
or
us
just
real
equip you-
data to make decisions from, and I mean, I thought, if the legislature so chooses and really would like to see us go in that road of raise it immediately, we can do that, but I keep in mind, for example, those that represent the city of Amsterdam or the greater Amsterdam area, every dollar you raise that tip fee is $10,000 increase in the city of Amsterdam's budget. So while there is that step here of saying, okay, great, I wanted you to do that, if we are gonna make those decisions and tell municipalities that they're gonna be paying that much more, I thought we should have that study in hand to do that. So, there's two sides to that coin, but I think, obviously, right sizing our budget is important.
When do you expect the report?
It should be, I just reached out, actually was texting tonight, it should be shortly, I'd say within a week or two.
Legislator Patel?
So alongside of that, we really should look at how we can reduce our costs also. I mean, similar in the past, they made sure that material was coming out of the waste stream that had weight that could be displaced from your cost or your shipping or tipping. Wood, for instance, pallets and stuff like that. I know we had from a relationship with Power Pallet to take that out of our waste stream, and therefore we didn't have that full cost associated with that. I think that'd be important also, that we look at what we can do there. And certainly the trash thing is not gonna go away. It's getting worse. Massachusetts is shipping across the border now to New York. It is taking up our space. New York City is trucking by train. So this is not gonna go away. And it's, the jail we can look at as a hotel kind of accounting system to look at your costs. The transfer station and waste hauling business is basically a trucking and warehousing. It boils down to that. So, we should really look at avoiding costs and what our true costs are.
Understood. Executive Osborne.
I was going to say that that's also a big part of what they're doing is giving us the overall market condition, not just for this year and where we stand, but where the future is. And basically what they've been saying was a little different is that the landfill space in New York is filling up and we're shipping more out rather than bringing it in. And at 20 years, you're not going to have a whole lot of space. Seneca Meadows might not be open. We've done some site visits at other landfills and are certainly open to everything. I think, it's certainly the price is the I mean, we can take pallets out and do that stuff, but that's not gonna change, the overall.
I think we know a few things. I think we know we need to make an adjustment. We need to make it as soon as possible. And we need some solid recommendations from our administration
Okay.
in that direction as soon as possible, based on that survey that we can discuss and, entertain.
Sure.
Yes, let's just.
Just coming off your comment of the condition of the building, I'm assuming you're meaning the Amsterdam transfer station.
Yes.
Is that degraded since the county took over, or not the county, since Gotta Do has been there? Does anyone?
If I give you an answer to that, it's my own opinion.
Yeah. that's
Okay, that's probably not fair to establish whose fault it is or what it
fine.
is.
But has it degraded in the last?
Our commissioner of DPW seemed to be nodding affirmatively.
So in the last 5 years, 6 years, has the conditions of the buildings decreased?
I don't want to, I'm not gonna speak for legislative policy, but I'll answer the question if you're asking me. I mean, I feel as though, yeah, the company that's in there is not maintaining our equipment the way they should. And I'm in there constantly talking to the director, our crane that we have, I don't feel it gets the maintenance that it should. I talked to them, the building's been, let go. I have guys down there performing work that they are under contract to do, that I'm paying to get done. But I can only do so much.
They are under contract to maintain the equipment, aren't they?
Yes, Eric, if there's an issue with that, please contact me so we can work on a strategy and present it.
Because that's not something that we should be putting, and you shouldn't be putting time and effort into if we're under contract with someone to do that.
No, and I get, but I do oversee,
Yeah.
oversee the operations as part of my job, and I do, and I try to, I remind them, and then they tell me, oh yeah, we did it last week.
And I think the last time that crane was replaced was like $675,000.
Expensive.
All the equipment is insured by Gotta Do, and we also have a bond for it from them, so we do have remedies. But let's have a discussion.
Wear and tear sometimes is, I don't know if that's going to be covered by insurance.
Reasonable wear and tear, and if it's not reasonable, we can assert that.
All right, hopefully, there's some good discussion, we can move forward. The next area would be personnel, and that is bringing up potential budget impact. And it has to do with the workman's comp. And my question to Sean, do we have any estimate here as to what this may end up running us? I guess the good news, it will not affect the 2019 budget. It'll be 2020. But since Nicole's here, Nicole, do you have any idea?
So I think first, any of the SLE scheduled loss of uses that are potential for 2019 and 2020, I think will be covered through our reserves that we currently have or through the assessments for 2020.
Okay.
So this gives us an opportunity to be able to project for the workers' comp local law, not the local law, but the workers' comp assessments that come out in August for the municipalities.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to add to that? Any other questions? It's not pressingly urgent, but certainly good to get on our radar screen at this point in time. And the last area is social services of potential impact. So it appears as though, according to the comments here, there was a change in status on cases totaling about $334,000 that was originally local dollars that we're not going to get reimbursed from both the state and federal dollars on. And
Why is that?
and that's what I tried to ask Sean. I mean, what is your best interpretation of that? All of a sudden,
My best interpretation of that is I'm guessing it's the state is shifting the cost of the county. In blunt terms, it's a caution.
But wouldn't these these things that we have been already planning for? I mean, that we wouldn't have no notice if they're shifting costs? When we have
I guess it would all depend on when the state made this decision to change the funding stream of this program.
But the persons that were doing this budgeting would be much more aware of that than we would be.
Or should be.
Or should be, and, you know, $334,000 is certainly not a pleasant surprise that, I don't know, it just seems like it just jumps out.
It sure does. It sure does. I mean, that's so.
Can we get further discussion from the executive in that department? Sure.
All right, other than that, that pretty much hits the highlights of the departmental reports. Now I'd like to take a look at our April 30th dashboard. All right, so through April 30th, we're 33% of the way through the year. So any revenue line item that's under 28% or any expense item that's over 38% gained a red caution here. So our first is sales tax. We know why that's not tracking up in the 30 percentile because it's lagged 60 days behind. Obviously a common narrative and theme as it pertains to that, but we are trending 2% higher than last year through same period, so that's a positive. Our next category, state aid DSS, tracking at 19%. Obviously, explanation, potentially justifiable. 60-day lag on that. Same explanation with the sales tax. It would stand to reason if we had 2 more months worth of claims recognized, we might be, you know, but we do know there's a 60-day lag on that, and you know that's been the case since we've been doing this. I guess the comment I have here is that the April claims are in.
April claims, I received the entries today. So
Okay,
they will be
and that is roughly by May 20th when they were supposed to be done.
correct.
All right, that's the good news. I guess, however, the not so good news is, and we're going to be talking a lot about this throughout the rest of this session here, but no reconciliation's done yet for 2019. Now, we did speak last month with the commissioner and kind of tried to shorten that period down as it pertains to completing our audit from 5 to 4 months. So it would stand to reason we should at least have January's done by now since we're in the 5th month. So, you know, obviously that needs some immediate attention to, you know, get that back on that timetable. And certainly not good to hear that it's not complying with the required timetable that we've set out for it.
Sure.
Yes, legislator Sweet.
This is a question for Sean. On the state aid DSS, the year-to-date difference is 100%. I mean, I see what you're saying with the sales tax, there's a lag, yeah, but that's 2% difference. The difference is 100%. See what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, that I don't understand though, Brian, to be honest with you, because if you look at it, we're versus the prior year, we're only 300 off, so that ain't 100%.
I'm just wondering if that's a
Yeah, maybe that's a type.
formula error, because the same thing under the federal aid DSS.
Yeah, that must be a mistake.
That's gotta be a formula.
Okay.
I'll check that tomorrow.
I mean, for it to be 100% behind, it would have to be 0 essentially,
Yeah.
right? You know, so, but good eyes there. All right, state aid.
That's what it's supposed to be, -24.
Okay.
I copied your formula.
State aid other. All right. There are 4 categories here that comprise 65% of this $8 million budget figure. And those four areas are the ones that you see here. Public defender, they're at 18% of their $586,000 revenue, for budgeted for the year, or 105,000 out of 586. Mental health, when these comments were made, had not yet submitted any claims. But according to Sean, when I met with him last Friday, they have booked we booked these quarterly, and they were booked in May, and 860 has been booked. So if that 860 had been recognized as of April 30, that would have represented 24%. Certainly, not in the 30 percentile on a standalone basis where it needs to be, but much better than 0%. Mass transportation, nothing's happened there. Economic development, only 3% of that budget, which are all grants, or 33,000, has been recognized to date. So these four areas, when you add up that 586, that public defender is supposed to recognize for a full year, the 3,000,006 for mental health, the 569 from mass transportation, and the 1.1 million from economic development. That's 5.8 million of the $9.2 million amended budget figure. So, I mean, we're lagging behind here. It's I don't know that it has anything to do. I mean, there's not any negligence there, Sean. People are not submitting claims, or they're just not doing business.
Most of these claims are on a reimbursement basis, so if the expenses haven't occurred yet, they can't put any claims in for reimbursement.
Okay. So maybe some of that will catch up over time. Federal aid, DSS, same story, no reconciliations yet for 2019, and you can see that's at the 11th percentile. Obviously, if April claims had been recognized here, and we know they're not capable of being done that quickly, but may have made it better. Federal aid, other, no claims for 2019 funding submitted yet. That's why that's carrying in the red. Education, half of FMCC contributions been paid, plus and spring semester paid to other community colleges. Those are the chargebacks that we have to pay to other community colleges when somebody from their area attends FM. So that's why that one's running higher than 38%. We've recognized half of our expenses there already by paying half of the FMCC contribution. And transfers out, which are, county road machinery fund movement is just done on an as-needed basis, so obviously not an alarming thing. On to the county road fund. Miscellaneous is a small line item. It's only at 8%, but it's only $13,800. Nothing that happens in that world is really impactful to the finances. State aid chips, as you heard through our resolution for Eric, this budget figure is going to be amended up to about $4.2 million of CHIPS money, plus another 5, right, Eric, for paving, Pave New York. So that budget figure, Sean, will be about 4.8, 4.9 once that resolution is passed. And obviously, we know how the CHIPS works because we're carrying over $1.8 million from last year. So that's why that figure will be amended upward, and it will get used as Eric does his business over the summer here. Transportation running at 60%, but that's because half of the year's snow contracts have been paid. So that's an accelerated expense there because of our semi-annual payments on the snow contracts. So nothing really earth-shattering there. Road machinery fund, inter-fund revenues at 4%. And that's use of the county equipment by the general fund, the county road, and the capital projects. And most of that, as we've come to understand, doing this now in the third year of this, happens during the construction season.
Chairman,
Yes,
just to go back on to the road fund.
Yes.
Under fringe benefits, the formula wasn't correct on that, it should say it should be 9%.
instead of 0 there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that correction.
So 0 to 100%.
No, I think it said 100% in it, it should be 9%.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, you mean on that, okay.
Under fringe benefits,
Yeah.
under expenditures.
Okay. And on to the health insurance fund, intergovernmental charges are billed on a quarterly basis. First quarter billed, not received yet. Received since the report was published was $1,774,000, and that would have put that at 29% and in a yellow caution area. And other fringe benefits on the expense side at 78%. That's because FICA and disability is paid for in full for all the fund employees. So that marks our April dashboard. Now, our next piece of material to review, and this was, I think, if Martin hit a daily double with some of his suggestions earlier in this meeting, this was the trifecta. Because I think this was an excellent suggestion that Martin brought up last meeting to try and, it's one thing, we look at a December dashboard in January, and we know that there's 3 or 4 months worth of claims that haven't been filed yet, or 60 or 90 days worth of them, for our federal and state programs. So this is a perfect time to do this, and I think we should do this again next year in April for all of us who are here, and I hope we all are, because it really helps tie into the audit as well. And this is a pretty interesting document that had me actually peeling back the onion a little bit further as I came upon more information reviewing this. I'm just going to, direct your attention just to colors for a minute. Take a look at the expense side of all 4 of these sheets. All of our expenses, pretty much in the green. I'll get into the 115% on home and community services in a moment and tell you how it was offset elsewhere and why. But just look, turn the pages, look at all our expenses, pretty good, as far as our budgeting abilities. We're less than, I guess it's easy to predict higher than high expenses and aim high and come in low and look good. I don't know what the formula is, but the reality of it is our people are doing, it seems, a pretty good job of budgeting their expenses. Most of these things are coming in line or under budget on the expense side. On the revenue side, we got some issues, and let's go back to the first page. You can see state aid DSS, and we have an explanation sheet here. State aid DSS, we had a $310,000 shortfall between year-to-date 4291 and the amended budget of 4601. Okay, is it earth-shattering? No, but just lower your eyes 2 more lines. That's where things start to get a little interesting. State aid other. Now this state aid other, we know, we just talked about the 4 big categories that are in here. Mental health, public health, economic development grants, mass transportation, E911 grant. You see them on your comment sheet. Just to give you a little synopsis of what happened there. State aid other is $2,585,000. The revenues were projected, the revenues came in $2,585,000 less than projected and budgeted. Mental health, they received $3.54 million out of a $3.72 million budget, $200,000 short roughly. Public health, PHC, they received a $1,180,000 versus a budget of $1,380,000, another $200K short. Economic development grants, received $470,000 against a budget of $1.5 million, about $1 million short there. Now, obviously, you know, that's a grant program. You know, one can say, all right, he didn't receive the grants, he didn't incur the expenses. You know, that's true. But you know, what causes, you know, somebody to predict that amount of revenue and not be able to come, you know, within 33% of it? I don't know. Mass transportation received 241 out of a 708 budget, 460,000 short. E911 grant, again a grant program, budgeted 610, received 145, 465 short. Those 5 areas were 2.3 million of the 2.585 million. You know, I'm certainly, we're not pointing fingers or picking on anyone, but I don't know what leads to budget predictions on revenue being off this much. Okay? And I know you're going to have bunches of questions and things, and I appreciate that, but I just hear me through a lot of this stuff. And obviously, hopefully, these same things that I encountered upon seeing this start to pique your interest and perhaps, you know, I don't want to say alarm you, but certainly, you know, cause for better understanding. Federal aid DSS, look at that baby. 3 million off of, you know, year-to-date recognized through December, 6.3 million out of 9.3 million. You know, that's, you know, 3 million bucks off on revenue. Now, again, you know, one can say, and I have another printout here that I've had Sean put together that we can get into this, but I just want to get through these 4 pages first, and then I'm going to go back to this first page. You know, there's some pretty systemic shortfalls here in people's ability to predict revenue in their world. You know, and obviously those revenues were part of our $116 or $17 million budget when it went up from 113. So people, you know, on the outside world look at this and say, you know, God, that county budget went up, you know, $6 million, $7 million year over year. You know, where the hell's it all going? Well, part of it is because people are predicting they're going to generate more revenue than they're able to do. You know, and I don't know, you know, I would think that these programs that we administer on behalf of the state and federal government, people, there's got to be some variables to them. People can't accurately predict them to the dollar, but good Lord, you know, horseshoes and hand grenades here. You know what I mean? We got to get a little closer, you know, than what we're seeing here on this dashboard as a year end. And I don't know, you know, I'm as in the same quandary you may be in as I'm describing it to you. I don't know what leads to that, other than lack of expertise, or I don't know, you know, but it's certainly, I'm putting it out there for you to absorb. Now, go down a little bit further. You see departmental income up 584. Well, that's because the estimated tonnage of waste through the transfer stations exceeded budget. And it directly offset that other red expense line item of home and community services of $482,000, because that 482, well, excuse me, I'm sorry, departmental, yeah, that offset the other one, and really what that is Sean, I lost my, the departmental income has to do with waste as well, right?
Right, the revenue stream for solid waste goes in departmental income.
Okay.
And the expenses go in the home and community services.
So even though those expenses were 482 over budget, they were more than offset by 100K on the other side of the ledger. So at least we see an offsetting feature to that, okay? Going down the rest of the pages here, the county road fund, you know, again, miscellaneous, a $13,800 annual line item is not impactful to our numbers. You know, the CHIPS, we know what happened there. They didn't realize the income, but it was carried over into this year's budget as we just described. Excuse me. The road machinery fund. We know our transfers in are on an as-needed basis. Nothing alarm there. Fringe benefits. They were up at 111% of budget. Now, in and of itself, not a huge line item, $187,000 out of a $116 million budget. You know, but, you know, and as we talk about this, we can't predict claims here. You know, who's going to get sick, who's going to need surgery. I mean, the good news is this pertains, according to Sean, to about 7 or 8 people. That those fringe benefits pertain to about 7, 8 people of that 187. So, you know, it's really, you know, it ended up only being 20,000 over budget. So, you know, again, not earth-shattering. You know, we have to put these things in perspective. And the health insurance fund, intergovernmental charges, the $332,000 shortfall on intergovernmental charges. There's a budget variance offset by miscellaneous, which was had an overage of 119, and the miscellaneous is retiree and employee contributions to the program. So we're looking at between what fell short on the intergovernmental charges and what was exceeded budget on the miscellaneous, about a $48,000 difference there. So again, not big numbers, but I wanted you to see this. And Martin, I think it was an excellent suggestion. And now let's go back to page 1. When I looked at this, you know, I said to Sean, can you draw down a history for me of how our DSS department has budgeted revenue and expenses over a recent history to see, you know, is this something that's been, you know, is this a trend? Is this an anomaly that happens in different circumstances year over year? Take a look at this sheet here that I had Sean put together. It's a history of DSS departmental revenue and related expenses, budget to actual. And I'll help you, you know, it looks like a lot of numbers, but I'll help you reduce it to lowest terms here. If you look over the difference column in each year, and I'll go over every year with you just so it's, you know, I'm not going to beat a horse here, but just so you get a growing understanding of it. In 2013, the budget figure was $12,669,000. We actually received $13,352. So we had an overage in revenue, and brackets on expenses is good, as you can see, because the budget figure was $26,275,000, and we only incurred expenses of $24,883,000. So between the revenue gain and the expense savings, if you look over in the far right column, the net effect of their operations was a positive $2,074,000. Okay? And also another thing I looked at tonight that hit me. Just look how this works in this world. The state and the federal government ask us to administer their programs at an expense of $24,900,000. And they give us $13,352,000 to do it. You know, just look at that fraction. It's probably about 65% of the money that they ask us to run their programs that they reimburse us on average. You know, I mean, I know some grants are 100%, I know some are 80, I know some are 60, but I mean, this is a recurring characteristic of our operations. We have to make up the difference, and we've said this before during budget sessions, at least I have, and you know, trying to conduct them. you know, we have to make up the difference for every program they ask us to run, and where can it possibly come from? Real estate taxes and sales taxes, or cutting services and programs and expenses. Those are the only faucets we have control over. You know, I mean, in reality, from a 1,000-foot view. And some of those faucets that we have control over, we can only turn the spigot a little bit. Can we raise sales tax from 8 to 9%? Sure. But would it cause insurrection? Probably. Would it require state approval? Definitely. Can we raise real estate taxes? That's a faucet we can turn any way we want, if we want to. But is it prudent to do that? I don't know. You know, I mean, nobody wants to exceed the tax cap. Nobody wants taxes, their taxes to go up. But that's the reality we're dealing with here. You know, and that was just one other thought I had about this as I looked at it tonight. But let's go back to the sheet. 2014, revenues were 127,000 greater than received than budgeted. Our expenses were $1,000,001 less than budgeted, for a net gain of $1,241,000. 2015, you get the idea. But look at 2015. We're a positive 582, but our revenue projections were $1,006,000 short. You know, saved by the fact that our expenses were $2.2 million under budget, for a net gain that year of 582. 2016, our revenue projections off $2.1 million. And our expenses only $137,000 less than budgeted, for a net loss that year in that world of almost $2 million, $1,981,000. 2017, revenues $1,084,000 less than budgeted, expenses $1,586,000 less than budgeted, so a net gain of $484,000. And that just this past year, revenues off $3.2 million, partially offset by expenses that were $1,500,000 less than budgeted, for a kind of a net loss in that cost center of almost $1,700,000. So if you go back to 2015, you can see that the last 4 years in this world, our revenue projections have been off 7 figures or more. And it's alarming. And it's also likely, as you can see from this December one sheet, one of the main areas that is contributing to us in, you know, not meeting budget and needing to use more fund balance. And I just wanted to point that all out to you, just to give you that background. Now, we have the odd, and that's why I went from here to here to here. And the odd, I know some of you have picked it up. I got it Friday myself, told them make it available to everybody today. You know, so we all have it at the same time. The big page in the booklet is page 4. And the big page in the booklet shows that our appropriated fund balance went down from $8.2 million to $5.6 million, and we used to balance our budget $2.5 million of our fund balance. Now, when we put our budget together, that figure was what, Sean? 3.8, 3.9? Okay, so the good news, we didn't use the 3.8. You know, we used $1.3 million less than the 3.8. The bad news, or the not so good news, if you ask me, is, you know, we used $2.5 million of it. And we had that study done a few years, or last year, where we were using $1.5 million to $2 million. And, you know, on the premise that, how the hell else do we make up this difference? You know, I don't know where we make it up. You know, is it through real estate taxes? Is it through sales taxes? Is it through cutting programs? Those are our faucets. So, I think it's all interrelated, I guess is what I'm saying here. And, you know, because some of these federal and state programs, we gotta do a better job of predicting our revenues so as not to inflate that budget going into it. And it appears as though it was capable of being done sometime during this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 year history, but not the last 4 years of it. So that said, I know you all have a lot on your minds as far as the, one other little aside. The December dashboard that we look at in January isn't worth the paper it's written on when it comes to these categories. Take a look at your December 31st year-to-date dashboard, sorry. Just to let you know, state aid DSS on our December 31st dashboard looked at in January, year-to-date, was $6,087,000 and $1,486,000 over budget. Look what it came in at, 309 under. Federal aid was at $7,123,000 year-to-date, or 2.256 off of budget, and that one ended up being $3 million. So, you know, I mean, some of that is catch up with claims. We understand that, you know, but I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I see something here that needs attention. And now Sean has explained to me that Bonadio is coming in to do our numbers, you know, off of the odd, and he has asked them to take have a jaundiced eye look at DSS to make sure there are not some claims and some revenue that we might have been able to recognize that we were not able to, you know, that we did not recognize. But I think we have something, you know, I know everybody wants to talk about fund balance and not using it, and we all don't want to use it. There's not a person who sits around this room that doesn't want to use it to the degree we have to use it, and I think we're all on board with that. But I think the time for, you know, we got 5.6 left in that fund balance, and if we take two more consecutive $2.5 million hits, we're going to have squat in that fund balance, and we need to do something about it proactively, or, you know, we're going to be in a pickle in 2 years where we're going to have no choice but to turn that one faucet that we have ultimate control over. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And thank you for that comic relief.
I have a couple of things.
Yes.
Because that's some great work that you've done there. The areas that are systematic in terms of underestimating, do perhaps, well, there's two things. One is, I don't know how that creeps up on us, because we've had the dashboard in place in that 2018, those in 2018, and those things got away from us, apparently. And there's a little creep, and there's a little bit of an explanation on an ongoing basis that we somehow accept. So we have to look at that a little bit differently. That's one. And two is I think you should take those areas that you highlighted. Okay, we have to review those now in this budget to see if we want to make changes right now, instead of waiting to see what they were at the end of the year. If there's a propensity not to accurately forecast those revenues, then the adjustment should take place right now based on what we've read. We should take a look. We should review that now and make changes.
And I don't disagree with you, Legislator Duchessis, but I mean, none of us have the expertise to do that. So we turn to our administration for some potential solution in that regard. I mean, any ideas?
Well, I would say we have to dig in specifically by program area. That would be number one. I think you've done a great job, a really great job. The broader overview, I think we know what's going on in DSS is absolutely unacceptable and can't continue, and I think we're all beyond frustrated. I'll leave it at that.
And up to this point, some of it appeared procedurally. Are they lagging? Is it
Yes.
4 months? How far are they doing? But those things,
That's how it creeped up.
but those things, you know, that's just part of the
But,
problem.
yeah, and I think you're digging into it in program areas and also separating which ones are like, as we were talking, as you were going through, there are some explanations for some of it, but clearly there's a revenue issue, and it all centers around, let's face it, public health, mental health, PSS are the three big ones. So I think that's where we have to focus immediately, in addition to, you know, start to look at the budget for next year a little earlier as a team. Those are my two suggestions.
Well, I think they're good suggestions, but I think the place to start then are those programs, and because they appear to be the source
We're,
of a lot of this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying all of it, and it probably has something to do with, you know,
but Mike, you bring up a great point.
estimating things properly and what we're gonna get reimbursed for the actual, you know, costs we incur. I don't know, but I mean, when you look at this, I mean, I looked at this and I'm thinking 13 over 24, 13 over 25, 13 over 26. We're getting, you know, the revenue we recognize is half of the expense we incur. That's a lot to make up without any, you know, without any sources of revenue that we have. You know, let's face it, our hands are tied with real estate taxes too.
Yeah.
You know, we might have control of that faucet, but we can't cavalierly just turn it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it impacts our constituents.
There's
So there's gotta be some, you know, we certainly gotta pay some good attention, and I'm not saying we wait till then, when we go through this budget process, at their revenue, you know, line items, in you know, these, program service areas, but anyway, I guess I'm looking, you know, for suggestions, help. I mean, we have to, you know, and John, you bring up, you know, good ideas, and Matt, you as well, but, I mean, can we?
Well, I mean, it's you know, we have some relatively new people in some of these big positions, and, you know, we need to take a closer look at it, and if, you know, if the job's not getting done, we need to make sure it gets done.
Legislator Patel, yes.
You know, answers to questions when they're asked are okay. Answers to questions that you get sometime are in defense. Answers that you get sometimes try to justify the end. But when it comes down to anything, it comes down to management. Okay? And, you know, I myself have been frustrated with DSS and their accounting principles or their processes, or the reason that this is this way or the reason that this is that way. But I'm not getting any satisfaction from that. I mean, I don't care about answers. I want results. I'm not pointing at you, I'm just communicating here.
You're absolutely right.
I'm tired of answers,
Yep.
okay? I want results. And it's sitting here, one of us, 9 of us, we don't have a very strong management potential when it comes to that, okay? All we can do is influence the management on it. So, to me, you know, I can look at all the numbers you want all day. I can look at, you know, brackets and look at it all
Please
day.
don't discount them, because they do have value. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
They let us down this.
My point is that this has gone on way too long to just keep on saying that it's a process that's in place that's causing it. This is a management issue,
You bet it is.
okay? And we need to treat it as a management issue,
You bet it is.
and we can't continue to deny that.
No. Thank you, Legislator Capel. Legislator Kelly.
So I think one of the reasons why the numbers vary so much from the December one that we originally got to the December actual that we did receive is, correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, she's submitting reimbursements and that's what's being booked on our original dashboards, not, and we're not really seeing once they come back.
That's correct.
That's the issue. I've had a conversation with Mike and Matt. The issue is not, because I believe we got the claiming issue
Yeah.
kind of
She's
straightened
booking,
out.
right, she's
The
booking
claiming
at the
is
proper
being-
time, she's just overbooking or overestimating her revenues.
I believe the issue is the reconciliations.
Maybe if we were able to have another report, you know, once ones are reconciled, and we can look back and see, you know, where maybe it's certain funds that aren't, you know, programs that aren't being reconciled or originally.
Well, don't you think they should look into that?
Why isn't that the department that needs to be
It's not our
reconciled?
purview.
And they have to be looking at these numbers.
I understand that, but at the end of the day, it's us on the line too.
But this is
It
not
is.
my expertise.
Or any of
Okay,
us?
it's not, my expertise here is oversight,
Correct.
okay? It's not digging through the minutia to figure it out. I'm to take information, it's delineated to me, and make a good decision about it. And I can't do that.
And I would just offer this, Martin, and I'm not discounting what you're saying, but the least of my worries is how the December dashboard looks in January versus what it ended up. My worries are this thing, you know, and how grossly under budgeted, you know, the proof in the pudding ends up at the results that Legislator Patel's talking about, you know?
And then my other follow-up is, so Bonadio came in and trained our new employees and came up with some programming that, how come, where was the process where we were told what happened and how they were gonna correct these, what was it, E114s or whatever, the foster care, where there was the time frame that we had for back reimbursement?
You're talking about the 4Es?
That's it, 4
Yeah, the 4E, that was what was in the last report. That is actually starting to turn around with significant claims going in. That's a good thing, and I'm guaranteed that was part of the 1 year where their federal claims were off. But again, it appears to be one issue after the other. The revenue is not there, and it's a huge problem.
And here's another harsh reality. The department is about to be decimated with personnel shortages due to medical leaves and things of that nature. So they're going to be undermanned and shorthanded, is my point. Looking at, you know, into the teeth of the hurricane, you know, and that's very disconcerting. Legislator Diamond.
Chair, just,
Yes, sir.
for clarification purposes.
Yes.
Because you understand, very well, and what, you know, what a great job you've done. Is
Well, you
our
know, it was
concern,
just a logical, you know, I thought, maybe it's time to look at this to see if, you know, if they're off this much this year, how much have they been off, you know? But go ahead.
well, I guess I'm just trying to clarify the point, is and it could be both, is the issue the budgeting part of it, or is the issue that there's a feeling that there's unmandated expenses that we're losing? So in other words, I'm just have this page open, like, for me, one of the important things, are they coming, you know, the operating expense under or over? So what they budgeted, is it important? I understand we like to have the most accurate budget as possible, but is our concern that there's expenses here that we make up that we shouldn't have to be doing?
No, I don't think that's a concern from what I see personally, because I think that inside the numbers, if you look at them, they're coming in under budget just about every year on expenses. Now some of that's directly related to the revenue that they're not generating to incur those expenses. Because, in order to administer the program, we have to, and claim the revenue, we have to incur the expense, the way I interpret it.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'm just wondering if we're getting
To me, I think
excited about the budgeting part of it, which I understand we'd like to be as accurate as possible, but the part that my main concern is the expense part.
Yeah. No, I see where you're coming from, and I mean, I think I think what happens here is that the expenses trail along less than budgeted because the revenue hasn't been generated to incur them.
Okay.
Is my take. So it all starts on the top line, the ability to properly budget the revenue and adhere to it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Throughout the course of the year,
Yeah.
what they predicted they said they were gonna be able to do that's just my take. I'm only one person,
No, I just wondered, does that directly affect the money that we have to contribute from our fund balance?
Well, it's not because they're incurring greater expenses, it's because they're not generating the revenue.
So our whole thing, I mean, to summarize, our issue is the budget.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's top line stuff. It's revenue. I think it's revenue and it's off. I mean, Christ, the last 4 years, it's been off an average of $1,750,000,
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm just doing that by eye.
Yeah.
Less than 2 million, but pushing 2 million, a year
Yeah.
on average. So,
Yeah.
thank you for bearing with me on this, but it was, something I wanted to go through with you just to help relate it to this.
Thank you for this, this is very informative.
Can I?
Absolutely, yes, thank you, Legislator Wilson.
It gave me a real good snapshot of what you're talking about.
Well, it's kind of stuck out like a sore thumb, on the year-end ones. That was Martin's suggestion.
Can I ask for another column?
You can ask for whatever you want.
Well, no, so we're seeing the budget as amended. We're not seeing what we originally budgeted. So we're not even seeing the full extent of our budgeting
Oh, on this one.
on the one that you created.
Yeah, that's true.
We don't
Well,
know.
no,
where
Sean created it. I just suggested, can you give me a
Right.
history?
Like, if you could do an actual budgeted column, then the amended budgeted, because that's where some of the tweaking might need to happen.
It's a good point.
We
Very good point.
come here, we pass a budget, we stay under the tax cap, January, February,
Good
March,
point.
we're increasing.
Make adjustments on the
expenditures.
fly and it can affect things. Legislator Patel.
I mean, my question is whether the income and the expenses are proportional to what they've been budgeted. And if they're not, whether there's a question of whether the reimbursement rates might be something that would look, or reimbursements that we look at as far as the revenues. And just take a second look at that and see if there's something there, because they're anticipating revenues from something. And the question is, what are they basing those revenues on? What are their assumptions on that to get to that? And maybe the assumptions aren't holding true. Maybe the reimbursement rates aren't being reimbursed properly.
Could be any
I don't know,
combination.
but I would think that if you look at proportionally between what's budgeted and what's real, you might see, well, they're in line, or they're totally off.
And another point you just made me think of was, how hard do Sean, how hard do they fight for these revenues? Did they just take what they give them and could could they go back and appeal for more, you know,
Yeah.
on certain claims?
Well, I
And
think
then
just-
we're undermanned and they can't do it? I don't know.
I think you really teed it up for me as far as what, in summary, what I think about this is, the problem is it's not one easy answer. Part of it is, are you going after every state and federal dollar you can and being a bulldog about it, which is what you're saying? What is the piece of the increased mandate, which we know is happening in general, but we don't have the pieces? That's a part of it. And then finally, how much is getting lost in the shuffle and is just due to mismanagement? And so when you look at all those pieces, it's probably a piece of each. It's definitely a piece of each. How much of what is really where we got to zone in on and look at, and you know, to see that trend in the last few years, I think the biggest concern out of everything is that the revenue's not meeting the expectations.
And but as I sit here and hear you say this, and I appreciate that, and I think you're absolutely right, those are the three areas, and I think who best is there to peel that onion layer back in that department and come up with that answer? Sure, isn't number one, you know, who is it?
All those point to management.
Oh, there's no
They
question.
They all point to management, it's all responsibility of management, and, you know.
I mean, we can't even get
Plumbing
the.
has a saying that some things go downhill, but other things have to go up to the top and take responsibility for it. What my task is here is to say, look, we have to look out for who we represent. We have to make that happen, as opposed to trying to figure out what it is. Okay, we need to make it happen. And that's what it is. And we're, you know, maybe this is the way historically it's gone for 100 years. I don't know, I wasn't here. But since I've been here for going on 6 years, you know, this has always been a frustration. So if we don't say anything for it, then we also have to take responsibility.
Yep, agreed. I'm just wondering who in God's name can retrieve the data we need to make an educated decision in that world. It's not us. It's not you guys. You don't do that for a living. And that's an undermanned department with people who still have learning curve on things.
Yeah, and then quite frankly, the next couple of months are gonna be ensuring the wheels don't fall off the track even more, given some of the dynamics in the office, but I think that responsibility is on the commissioner, and that's been the discussions we've had, and we'll meet with them next week, and we'll try our best to do as many answers, get you as many answers as possible.
Okay.
If not satisfied, and you'd like us to go further, you know, I'm open to all suggestions.
When Bonadio was here, what was their main role? Was it to see what the management process was? What was happening?
It was twofold. First, it was a 4E program and getting that going, which, from what I understand, it's working now. It took a while to get going, and that was frustrating for me. Bonadio was ready to throw up their arms at one point. Then you go over to the budgeting, you know, the person that we recruited to the office, who was trained and brought to other areas, other counties, and that's the one person that's leaving. That's the person that's been doing the claims. But they did, and they were there providing information, resources, help. But as some of my conversations earlier, at what point do you say enough is enough, and we can't just say, hey, you know, as we said earlier, it needs to change. And you know, you're here to provide support, encouragement, training, just all these resources. But when you're doing that and it's not changing, and you're having a lot of the same problems over and over, that's where it just, I think we've all had enough in that regard.
Seems like there's been an awful lot of turnover in that department in the last few years too. I mean, I don't know if that's something to do with management or personnel or whatever, but it definitely needs to be, and like Legislator Patel said, it comes back to management. Period.
Oh, no.
You can look at all the numbers you want, and you did a great job with that, but you can look at all the numbers you want, and if you don't go back to management, you're foolish.
And just my last point in that, I personally am at the point where we've provided funds for training, we've brought in experts, we've pulled in favors to send you to other counties. You know, I'm done with that. Either it gets fixed or it doesn't, or we get new people in there to fix it, or we make adjustments to bring the type of people we need in to get this stuff done. Because, you know, how many times have we all said when we're talking on the phone about this, we're just sick and tired of having this conversation. in one way or another, whether it's not getting reconciliations done. Here we are again, reconciliations are not done, and I was told the suggestion from the department that maybe we shouldn't do reconciliations, because that's what some other counties do. And I said, are you kidding me? And I said, maybe the 5 months isn't the right timeline. I said, that's the timeline we got from Montgomery, and now you wanna change the timeline at this point?
Well, I asked to change it to
You
4
heard that
months.
too?
Just
Yeah.
1 month, just, because I thought, what good is a 5-month lag if we need an audit done in the 4th month of the year?
So my frustration is right up there with yours, that it's either get it done or get people in there who are going to get it done, and that's where we're at.
Can't change your people, change your people.
All right, any further discussion? Thank you all for your patience and understanding during this discussion.
Well, hang on a second.
Yes.
I want to get back to my point, because we keep crossing over to do two different things. One is understanding how and why and when these things happen. But the other thing is, since these revenues are constantly overestimated, do we need to make an adjustment right now? Do we need to take a look at our budget and say, here's what's been estimated for revenues in those 5 or 6 areas, and adjust them? Say that that's not going to happen. Back off on them now. Make some cuts in expenditures that coincide with that to make those numbers work, rather than waiting till the end of the year or then drawing fund balance to make the difference.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
It's a very good idea. How can we do that, Matt? Sean?
Yeah, we have to go department by department. I think I have thoughts that I want to talk to Sean about, just as far as outlaying the expectations, explain your 17, 18 revenue shortages, program by program, where they came, and then that way we could start there with some answers, and then how it affects. Let's do a somewhat of a departmental report type of thing. We have it specifically on these revenues, explanations from years past, and how do you see, what do you see for this year? Do you see shortages? And, that could be a place to start. And we could
Have we ever done, I think Legislator Duchessis makes a wonderful point here. And have we ever, I know we've amended the budget, we see it, but have we ever amended revenues downwards? Is that unprecedented?
Not that I'm aware of. I think, certainly
We sure as hell know how to amend them upwards.
That's the only control that we have, and we certainly can amend the budget in that manner.
Well, because I think we always realized at the end of the year it'd shake out at about $1.5 million or $2 million, and everything would be fine, and we didn't feel necessarily the pressure to have to do so. But I think we're in a very different time at this moment.
We are.
I could cook up some questions that can be given to the department heads with the deadline in these key areas to explain, and we can start there. I'll have a tight turnaround time and try to have something for you.
All right, that's a
for
good
next
start.
week as far as a path forward. How about that?
I'm going to say in advance that based on what I've seen, I'm not likely to react in a positive fashion to explanations as to why it's going to come out the way we hope it will. I think we ought to really take a serious look and say, ask ourselves, are these realistic projections that we've accepted, and do they need to be changed?
Well, I would just say there is a piece of that, and I agree with you, but for example, the mental health situation, where we found out in years past, the previous mental health director was not he wasn't, when he got more of the revenue than he should, it ended up getting billed to a later year. It was a reasonable explanation for why, that situation happened, and it just might at least help us eliminate problem areas and help us highlight where some of the real,
But to the contrary, the problem has just been laid out, not just on a one-year basis, but on a continuous basis, whereby they're historically underestimated. And so we need to ask ourselves how much confidence we have in this year's projections. I really think we should try to make an adjustment now.
That's a good place to start with your department head is, look at this. Our legislature's not confident in your budget projections because of this.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
and we want revisions.
Like you're saying, certainly in DSS, it's been, a reoccurring pattern for years, as indicated here, so yeah, let's start there.
Mr. Sitter, 9? You join Paul?
Go ahead, Mike.
I think we all have. At least I know I have. I need a standing 8 count.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, Dan? Adjourned at 8:41.